Week 13 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few tight ends I have as sleepers this week. The first one, Jack Doyle of the Indianapolis Colts. So Doyle's banged up a little with a knee injury, but last week we saw him have a big ball game. His best one of the season, easily this season versus Tampa. 6 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown. So Carson Wentz and Doyle look good together in that game. But right here, Carson Wentz, some games, some guys break out for him, and some games they don't do much. But the last few weeks here, Doyle's been serviceable in PPR leagues at a weak tight end position. Week 10 versus the Jags, 3 catches, 31 yards. Week 11 at Buffalo, 3 catches, 30 yards. And then last week, like I mentioned, versus Tampa Bay, 6 catches, 81 yards, and a touch. So week 13 here at Houston, they give up the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends. They really can't stop anyone. They're one of the worst teams in the league. And as long as Doyle plays this week, he's a good sleeper option, and he's available in 95% of fantasy leagues. The next tight end we're staying in the same game is Brevin Jordan of the Houston Texans. I mentioned him as a waiver wire pickup, and no one went out there and got him. He didn't get owned at all. He's still available in 100% of fantasy leagues. But last week versus the Jets, he had a good game, Brevin Jordan. 3 catches, 23 yards, and a touchdown. And this week here versus Indianapolis, it's a great matchup on paper versus the Colts. They give up the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. So Jordan, young talent, no doubt about it. A guy who can make some plays, I think. And Tyrod Taylor and him just got to get more reps in for this guy to be more consistent and a better tight end option for Tyrod Taylor. So right now, I know it's a total deep sleeper here, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Jordan maybe get 30 or 40 yards and possibly find the end zone, especially if this game goes to garbage time and the Texans got to throw it 40 or 50 times in this one. And the third and final tight end I have as a sleeper this week's Foster Monroe of the Las Vegas Raiders. Foster Monroe, he got picked up in 16% of fantasy leagues. We know Waller's out with the back and knee injury week to week right now is the report. And Derek Carr, he's a big fan of Foster Monroe. He's a guy that he's spoken about in the past as a guy when he's going to be on the field a lot. He's going to have a breakout game and play well. And the one start we saw him get for Waller was week 7 versus Philly. Had a huge ball game, 6 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown. And then week 11 versus Cincinnati, 1 catch, 19 yards, a touchdown. Week 12 at Dallas, a catch for 3 yards. And now here, week 13, getting the start is Monroe versus the Washington football team. That gives up the 13th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. So right here, it wouldn't surprise me to see Monroe have a good ball game. With Waller out, he's going to be a decent target in this one, getting 6 to 7 targets, I believe, for this pass-happy Raider team. And I think as a sleeper option, he definitely could get 40 or 50 yards and find the end zone. So that's a few tight ends I have as sleepers here for week 13 of the fantasy football season.